Hi, welcome back to Neptune Rising Astrology. This video is going to be about the Libra full moon, which is happening on the evening of Saturday, April 12th. Now, this full moon officially marks the end of eclipse season, so we're done with all that craziness. Mercury retrograde is over, and Venus retrograde is ending the same day as this full moon, not even an hour later. So this really marks a turning point in April. Now, whenever we have a full moon, we really want to look at both archetypes that are involved. So we've got the sun in Aries because it's Aries season, and the full moon in Libra. Now, these two are opposing signs, also known as sister signs. Aries is cardinal fire. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It is all about starting things, initiating things, going all in, trusting your gut instincts, being direct, being straightforward, acting on impulse. Aries is ruled by Mars, which is, the god of war, very action-oriented planet. Now, Libra is ruled by Venus, which is a lot more thoughtful and slow and sweet. Libra as an archetype really appreciates balance, homeostasis, harmony, serenity, positive social interactions. Libra is cardinal air. Air is more about socializing. So Libra is constantly striving to find beneficial, symbiotic social relationships, trying to find that balancing point between two people, between two ideas. Libra is also represented by the scales. Libra really cares about fairness and equality and justice. Libra is a very socially minded sign. So the Libra full moon is always a time in Aries season where we're needing to stop and consider our relationships with others. Aries season is very me-focused. Aries can be kind of selfish because this is a time when you're needing to start new projects for yourself and really put your all in. But at the Libra full moon, we're needing to pause and consider our relationships, consider the people around us, consider our social dynamics. Now, we've got a really interesting aspect formation going on in this full moon. We've got the sun in Aries opposite the moon in Libra, and they're both squaring over to Mars in Cancer. So squares are 90-degree aspects. They represent tension and conflict. The sun in Aries here is really representing our desire to just be impulsive and direct and follow our instincts, be independent, not be affected by anyone, Whereas the moon in Libra is representing our unconscious emotional need for harmony, for peace, for beneficial social relationships. This might be something that we've been kind of ignoring during Aries season, but now it's really rearing its head and showing us we do need this. We do need to work well with others. This is not a negotiable. So the sun in Aries and the moon in Libra are both squaring over to Mars in Cancer. Now, Mars in Cancer represents this defensive, protective instinct, our repressed anger. As I've talked about in videos before, Mars is very uncomfortable in the sign of Cancer. He doesn't get to express all of his anger in a very straightforward way. He feels very uncomfortable with that. And so it can come out in kind of passive-aggressive ways. But Mars in Cancer feels very, very protective and very defensive. So that is the big tension of this full moon. We're having our desire for independence and honesty and, fuck it, I'm going to do whatever I want attitude, and our need for reciprocity and peace and harmony. And these two are having tensions with this natural repressed anger that we're feeling, this defensiveness, this protective instinct. And all of these energies are very uncomfortable with each other. So we're having all of these manifest in different areas of our life, depending on what your rising sign is, depending on where all of these planets are falling in your personal chart. So this should be interesting. Now, since the full moon is in the sign of Libra, it's answering to Venus. Venus is the ruler of Libra, so she's kind of like the boss of this full moon. Now, Venus is in Pisces, and again, she's stationing direct. So she's finishing up her journey through the arms of the sun. She's finishing up her retrograde period, and she is about to reemerge as the morning star. So she's really getting clear in this moment of everything she has learned for the last 40 days throughout this Venus retrograde. And Venus is in Pisces, which is her favorite sign. In Pisces, Venus is very open and gives her love out very freely. You know, it's a very romantic, rose-colored lenses, dreamy placement for Venus to be in. However, Saturn is right next to her. So Venus and Saturn are actually going to be within a conjunction pretty much for the whole month of April. So what this means is Venus is being like all lovey-dovey, you know, head in the clouds, and Saturn is right there holding her hand and reminding her to have standards, reminding her to have boundaries, reminding her of what she deserves. You know, because Venus and Pisces might not always see things for how they truly are, but Saturn is going to be holding her hand the whole month to show her like, I don't like that. I don't like the way this person's treating you, or this doesn't feel good, or what did we learn during Venus retrograde and how are we actively implementing that? Don't forget the lessons we learned during Venus retrograde. That's what Saturn's kind of here to show us. So yeah, they're going to be kind of traveling together throughout the whole month. They had an exact conjunction while Venus was still retrograde on April 7th, and they're going to have another exact conjunction on April 24th when Venus is direct and fully out of her retrograde. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about Mars. So remember, Mars is in Cancer. Mars entered Cancer initially in September, like right at the beginning of September. Went through Cancer, dipped into Leo for November and December, and then right after New Year's, went back into Cancer and has been in Cancer ever since. It's been a really long time that we've had Mars in Cancer in its weakest place. So I have some good news for us. Mars is finally leaving Cancer for good, basically for the next 2 years, on April 17th. So this is the last full moon we're having with Mars in Cancer. We can all take a deep breath and say goodbye to that. There is going to be a little ruckus that comes with Mars exit or egress out of Cancer, but we'll talk about that at the next new moon in Taurus. I want to pull a few cards to see what the tarot has to say to us about this Libra full moon. All right, we've got Temperance, the World, and the Nine of Wands. Interesting. I mean, Temperance, I feel like this makes a lot of sense because Temperance is about moderation. Temperance is about kind of knowing when not to go to any extremes. And with all of this polarizing energy at this full moon, we really need to drop into a state of moderation and balance and homeostasis. There's something that needs to end here, and we're holding on really tight. I don't know why. Let's see. What is it that we're holding on to? It seems like we're being very persistent with something. It feels like we're almost at the end, but not quite there. We're just trying to see it through. Can I get a little more information? Page of Pentacles. This might have to do with work or a project or money, some sort of physical, tangible thing that you're trying to get started on. Okay, I'm seeing that you need to allow yourself to have some grace because you're really pushing yourself to your limit. Typical Aries season fashion. You know, you're trying to go all in, but you're going to burn out if you don't give yourself some grace, you know. Everyone has off days sometimes. You can't be perfect all the time. Let's see. Oh, Ten of Pentacles at the bottom. It's all going to work out in the end. you need to trust the process. Interesting. Yeah, you're going to get everything that you need out of this. Cool. Well, thank you for watching. As always, I offer personalized astrology and tarot readings. You can email me. I'll put my email down below. Thank you for watching. See you next time.